Good day and welcome to this Focus On segment. We are here at the Mining Indaba 2023, the world's largest mining investors conference, where several heads of state and the private mining sector gather to discuss the current policies and quite possible policy changes that will impact the future of mining. We attended the Namibia Country Case Study to find out what the country is doing to put their best foot forward to attract potential investors. I saw in November there was an increase in production of 20.8%. Which areas do you attribute this increase in productivity?
Okay. Yeah, I think mining in Namibia is actually one of the most important sector of the economy. Its contribution can range between 10 to 15%, and that's huge, and therefore it's a very, very important sector. And as you say, last year there was a jump in the production of the mining. That was mainly from gold production and also from diamond productions. Those are the two sectors actually where I think more and more was produced in terms of the output, and therefore. But I think also in the gold, it's also not only the output itself, but also the price of gold. As you understand, I think gold price is really very improving all the time, and therefore that in itself also did make like the output from mining sector actually contributed. So it's a huge sector that actually is very good. And when we are here at the mining in Indaba, and then we hear people talking about mining, that again excites us because we are now talking about a mining sector that is not only going to to produce metals for the traditional usage, but because of the energy transition now, suddenly you actually need more metals, and metals that even a few years ago nobody actually thought about those metals. Those become even more important, and because now the demand for metal is going to be much more. So that excites us to say, look, there's actually potential for even more explorations in our mining sectors to make sure that at least we can then be part of that supply chain for the future energy transition.
These metals you're referring to, that's cobalt and lithium, correct? So how does that fit into your global strategy?
Yes, as you say, it's cobalt and lithium. There are already explorations being done, especially in lithium. Not only exploration, I think there are a few companies that has already gone up to actually doing the mining. Now, the issue is this is now a commodity that everybody, the world needs. And our issue is now that, for the longest time, I think, most of the mining industry in Africa, the miners will come in mining these minerals and then actually export them in raw forms. Our stance now, our position now is to say, I don't think it's really sustainable for mining countries like Namibia to continue to actually allow the exploitation of raw materials, especially now some of these critical raw materials where people need. So we really need to actually have a much better partnership with the investors to make sure that more value addition is done in the countries. And when you speak to the investors, I think we all agree that that is actually what needs to be done. And therefore that really excites us to say, if you're now going to really to start add value to these minerals within the countries, that will mean much more to the economies to our economies. It will then really start to address the issue. When people talk about the ESG, for example, it will really now start to talk about those things, especially about local content issues. And therefore, it's really an exciting period, I think, going forward.
I've also noticed there was a lot of emphasis placed on, like you mentioned, ESG, green mining, but also junior miners. Now, where do junior miners fit into the greater scheme of your mining strategy going forward?
Yeah. Well, when people talk about junior miners, generally these are the investors who usually specialize in exploration. Because you need to understand that exploration is not the same as mining. Those are two separate kind of activities. And you have those people who specialize in explorations. And those are normally people who refer to as junior mining. But their importance is this, because you cannot have mining without exploration. And when you call them junior, it's not that they are less important. In fact, they are the most important actors within this scheme of things, because if they don't find the minerals for the big mining company to start actually mining those minerals, there will be no mining, and therefore they might be called junior, but very, very important part of the ecosystem in the mining industry. And for us, those are actually the people we need to have. If you can have the successful junior miners who are actually going to do exploration and find the minerals, and eventually then for the next phase, for the mining company to actually do the mining, we may not actually have mining operation, and therefore they are very important to us, and therefore, like we are here now at the Indaba, those are the people actually we are talking to, say, look, come to Namibia and look for these minerals, and let's do explorations.
Just speak to me about what kind of minerals are important to attract current investors.
Thank you very much, David. It's great to speak to you. Yes, actually we are at a moment in time where there is significant linkage between energy and mining. And there has always been a linkage, and the linkage has always been almost like energy as required in mining. However, we are also moving into an area where mining and minerals are specifically required in terms of energy transition. The world has set a target for decarbonization for us to reach net zero in 2050. And if we are going to get there, then of course the use of the likes of electric cars is important. The use of green energy is very, very important. And in that transition from fossil fuel to green energy, there is quite a number of critical materials and minerals that are required. Namibia has got some of those minerals, those ones that include, of course, copper, lithium, cobalt, and nickel, and various others that are required. So when we are talking now, yes, there has been gold that we normally talk about, there has been diamonds, and Namibia has done well in terms of gold, diamond, uranium, but we are now talking about how do we increase investment in the exploration, in the mining operations of critical raw materials that are required in energy transition. Specifically, we have entered into partnership with the EU, Namibia and the EU, for the EU to access critical raw materials from Namibia, but we need to increase our capacity to be able to explore and those minerals and to operate mines in those minerals and make them available to our various partners globally.
Now, part of to make this exploration available lies within the regulatory framework and your policy framework. Do you adjust, or do you see that being adjusted to attract these investors so you can open yourself up for exploration for this raw material?
Yes, the one thing with Namibia is that we are a country that is open to making sure that we always change our regulations, our policies to be responsive to whatever is happening in the world. And especially when we started moving in the green transition, and Namibia is seen as one of the top 5 countries that can produce the likes of green hydrogen at reasonable prices. We have started that journey since 2020, since towards the 2020, September 2020, our president made that announcement at the UN General Assembly. And since he made that, we have been on this journey of looking at what is required for green hydrogen. We are at a place where we are setting up a body that will put together legislation and regulation that are required for synthetic fuel, but also that is required for us to support the minerals that are required in energy transition. So yes, regulatory environment is very, very important, not only for stability in terms of investment, but also specific to minerals, specific to energy, specific to various other areas that are necessary, and the Namibian government is committed to making sure that we are responsive when it comes to our regulatory environment.
What risks do you foresee can potentially deter investors coming towards Namibia, and how do you navigate around that?
So the risks that are always there. So currently, for example, from a ranking point of view, Namibia ranks quite well. And when we rank quite well is we say we are in the top 10 countries when it coming to investment destination in Africa. When it comes to data availability, we are number one. Safety and security, we are number one. But that is actually where sometimes our risk lie. Namibia is a country that has got high level of unemployment, especially for youth and unemployment. We are the second most unequal country in the world. And also we are a country where, given the level of our population, we've got unacceptable levels of poverty. So when you look at that and you've got youth that are unemployed, and we've got a mining sector that people are starting to believe that this mining sector is significant for Namibia. However, some Namibians feel like they are not getting the benefit. And therefore we are looking at how can we be more involved in the value chain? How can we add more value to our minerals? Currently they are mined from Namibia and shipped so that they can create jobs somewhere else. How do we use those minerals to create jobs locally? So if we do not pass the legislations that are required in respect of local content, that are required in terms of local beneficiation, so that we can create jobs for our people, then it can kind of cause some form of unrest, and that unrest can pose a risk to our number one position in terms of safety, security, and so forth. So if you ask me, that is one of the challenges. The second challenge is skills. In energy transition, what is required is quite a number of skills. And yes, Namibia, our education system has been challenging, but it has produced quite good candidates. For example, in terms of our first degree, our local universities are producing bachelor degree in terms of engineering. However, most of the skills that are required is in vocational training, and we do not have sufficient capacity there. And also people with experience. We've got people that have gone to university, they have done their bachelors, but they do not have the experience. Also master degree level. But we have worked together with the German government. They've given us first funding, and with that funding we have identified the first cohort of applicants that are going to go mainly for vocational training and master's degree. But the skills that would be required specifically for green hydrogen, specifically for raw material, would be quite huge and quite significant. So yes, we'll need to import some skills, but we definitely need to train Namibians. So skills, and then of course being responsive in terms of local content and making sure that whatever we do, we solve the real challenges. We call it the triple challenges of inequality, poverty, and unemployment that is facing our young people. If we do not address that as part of this journey, I think then we might be posing a risk to attracting investors to Namibia. However, we are very, very committed. Our government has identified that risk, and we are working on resolving those challenges.
As you've heard it, good governance and policy frameworks are two key areas that the Namibia government is focusing on to attract potential investors in Namibia's mining sector. I'm Indaba reporting from the Mining Indaba 2023. And until next time, goodbye.